You are dead. No longer bound by the mortal coil, you have slipped into what lies beyond. But there is no peace in death. You have things to do, unfinished business to take care of. For the restless dead, there is more to fear than you can imagine. Hello, and welcome to another lore video about Wraith the Oblivion. In the last part, we began talking about the history of the Underworld, and in this video we'll continue, so if you missed part 1, you can watch that here first. Taking the charts the Shining Ones had provided to him, Charon set sail across the sunless sea to the far shores to see for himself what lay there. When he returned, he bore with him 7 signs, gifted to him by the Shining Ones, who stayed across the sunless sea, taking the realms there under their protection. By these signs, Charon was acknowledged to have power over the dead, to be their sole magistrate, to mete out judgment, and to decide the fate of all souls in and yet to come to the Shadowlands. By the authority of the signs, Charon created the cornerstone for a new city to be the center of civilization. He took the ghosts of the strongest stones from great cities that had gone before, from Memphis and Babylon, Jericho, Sparta, and Athens, to construct a fortress on the Isle of Sorrows. In the center of his new city, atop the highest point of its 7 peaks, he raised a towering lighthouse. It shone forth as a beacon of hope and safety for all souls, and as a monument to Charon for the great deeds he had accomplished. This grand new city, founded upon 7 hills on the Isle of Sorrows, he called Stygia. As the acknowledged leader of the restless and bearer of the Shining One's mandate to be their judge, Charon instituted the first government of the restless dead. Formed using the model of the Roman Republic, so eagerly described by the newly dead, the Republic of Stygia had a senate that held 7 seats, which Charon filled with his most trusted lieutenants. Each senator was granted control over a different part of the land of the dead, with Charon taking the humble title of consul. As their first act, the Senate granted lands to Shining Ones near the docks of the Sunless Sea. There they might build temples to act as refuges for the dead waiting to journey to the far shores. They also received emissaries from other faraway kingdoms that ruled over their dead as Stygia ruled over the European ones. These were known as the Dark Kingdoms, that of Asia, which the Stygians called the Dark Kingdom of Jade, that of Africa, which they dubbed the Dark Kingdom of Ivory, and in turn, these ambassadors dubbed Stygia the Dark Kingdom of Iron. Charon and the Senate met frequently with the Ivory Queen, ruler of the African underworld, and with ministers of the Jade Emperor, discussing common needs, problems, and negotiations among them. In the Skinlands, Rome became a great empire, and in like fashion, Stygia grew into a republic with Charon at the helm. From its beginnings as a tiny outpost to its incarnation as a massive citadel built to defy Oblivion, Stygia matured into a just, strong republic over the next few centuries. Those times became known as Stygia's Golden Age. As decreed by the Lady of Fate, Charon took a tithe from all of the dead who entered the Shadowlands. He gave the tithes to Nudri for the smith to create the first weapons and armor forged in Stygia, gear that would be given to all those who would defend the city. Nudri then created 3 very special and important projects with the tithe ore he smelted: Siklos, Charon's blade which he used as his rod of office; Lumen, Charon's lantern used to illuminate the central beacon at the heart of the city; and the masks of the senators. When Nudri created the masks, he took from each a small piece to create Charon's mask. The last was a symbolic gesture to show the senators and all the dead that Charon was a part of them, and they, in turn, a part of him. Charon enlisted Nudri's help in a further grand project, the building of a network of roads that cut through the tempest and led to the Sunless Sea. As Oblivion grew and fractured the Shadowlands with its specters, Charon fought it by creating the roadways webbing the realm to provide secure passage from all corners of the Underworld. As Rome's legions spread in the Skinlands, Charon directed Nudri to follow them to Britain, Gaul, Thrace, Jerusalem, Damascus, Iberia, and Egypt, to all the lands Rome conquered and made parts of their empire. Roman foot soldiers who died in the battles to conquer these far-off places became soldiers in the Stygian ranks. The Lady of Fate impressed upon Charon the idea that Oblivion must be fought on every front, not just on the field of battle, but also with the mind and heart. With that as his goal, Charon made his second pronouncement as counsel, Lux Veritatis, or the Light of Truth. By it, Stygia undertook the collection and preservation of humanity's greatest works. All were bidden to collect the finest art and sculpture, the greatest works and thoughts and philosophies of mankind, and beautiful treasures wherever they might be found. These were brought to the imperial city, archived and stored deep beneath the Senate in vaults made especially for the purpose. By this doctrine, Charon hoped to preserve the beauty and wisdom of the ages so that they might be an inspiration to all within the Republic. They might be lost to the living, but the dead would never feel their lack. The Republic and its great city of Stygia were the underworld's mirror to the grandeur that was Rome. It served as the waypoint for all those seeking transcendence and protection against oblivion. Yet as Rome declined, its attackers and malcontents fell and arrived in Stygia. There they refused to accept defeat or to bow to Charon's rule, instead spreading out along the byways and attacking ferrymen and their charges. This left many innocent souls to fend for themselves against the specters, who found them easy prey. These malcontent scavengers became known as the renegades. In response, Charon instituted a band of cavalry called equites. These Death Knights were empowered to escort the ferryman's caravan of souls and to patrol the thoroughfares, clearing them of specters. Despite these efforts, discontent was growing amongst the dead. When Rome fell into decrepitude, that great empire also faced a new challenge in the form of the followers of Christ. Stygia followed the pattern, finding itself stretched thin, governing and protecting the countless souls in their care. The followers of Christ, among the restless, calling themselves fishers, came to the edge of the sunless sea and made their own vessels from flotsam they collected there. They turned down the ferryman's offer of guidance and set off for a place they called Paradise. This far shore was not known to Charon or any of the ferrymen, though the fishers seemed certain they would find it. In the Skinlands, Rome teetered on the brink, buffeted by increasing social pressures, mad rulers, and invading tribes. In like manner, the unrest in the Shadowlands took the form of increasing numbers of specters, fanning out across every corner of the underworld, leaving destruction, hatred, and the siren call to oblivion in their wake. They crossed over into the world of the living and turned to skin-riding the tribes as they attacked Rome and its holdings. Upon their deaths, the attackers arrived in the Shadowlands and continued their assaults against what they saw as another Rome, Stygia. They swarmed against the city as they had once invaded Rome. Roaring behind them came armies of specters, ferociously attacking all they encountered. In response, equites were summoned to defend Stygia, and the ferrymen took up arms against the marauders. Charon took up Cyclos, taking the field of battle with his legionnaires, cutting wide swaths through the enemy ranks. Though they turned aside the invaders, many legionnaires were lost, and the specters settled into a siege of Stygia. Eventually, Rome finally fell. Great temples, government buildings, and places of learning were razed or burned, the people killed, beaten down, or enslaved. These buildings and the restless who filled them suddenly appeared in the Shadowlands, creating even more chaos and stressing the abilities of the ferrymen to ferry all the new souls to safety and the far shores. There were simply too many new arrivals, and too many soldiers and ferrymen had been lost in the struggle to protect Stygia. And thus came the first great maelstrom. In the next Wraith the Oblivion lore video, we'll continue discussing the history of the Underworld and the great maelstroms that have plagued it. I make World of Darkness lore videos multiple times a week, so if you enjoyed this video, please consider subscribing. And as always, thank you so much for watching. Remember, Restless Dead, life can get worse after it ends.